Hi everyone, Steve here from the Bay Area Restoration Council. At BARC, we talk about watershed issues in Hamilton and Burlington, Ontario, and today I'll be taking you through a native garden build which helps control runoff and also to feed our native pollinators, so improving biodiversity and also keeping our water clean. Welcome to my backyard. In my backyard, grass reigns supreme. My arch nemesis fills my entire backyard. What I want to do today is pull a lot of it up and put it in a native pollinator garden. This grass, unfortunately, although it has dandelions, doesn't do much for our insects and our birds and our bees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some native plants that have really long roots to soak up the rainwater and has flowers and leaves and foliage to make our backyard a pollinator paradise. My garden location, I chose this spot because of its closeness to my rain barrel. And that rain barrel makes it easy to put water into my garden when my plants need some water and they're thirsty. And I also chose this location because it's in full sun. As you can see, I'm almost covered in sun right now, and it's first thing in the morning. So my plants will soak up that sunshine all summer long and grow big and strong. So I pulled up all of my grass in my garden space, and you can see all of this clay soil in my garden. Now, clay soil is there's lots of clay soil in Ontario, but unfortunately, it's not great for the water drainage. So when I put in my native plants, you can see it's kind of mud here. When I put my plants in, those plants will actually build their root system in this clay soil and make tunnels and holes for water to drain through, and also for insects to make their homes and their habitat. So this clay soil, although it doesn't look great for plants, our native plants will be very happy in it. So to give my plants a head start, I added some triple mix to my clay garden bed and mixed it together throughout. I have my triple mix that I added to my garden, and triple mix is just full of nutrients for my plants to get going. So it has a third of soil, a third of peat moss, and a third of compost. So it'll give my plants lots of nutrients and a head start when they're growing in my garden. Before you start placing your plants, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually till my garden a bit. I have this tool here, so I'm going to mix all of that topsoil into my clay soil. So you don't want your water running towards your house. So I'm actually going to build it up a little bit over here so the water runs away and into the garden. So now that you have all your grass ripped up and you have your design plan here, I drew mine a couple days ago before I ordered my plants. And when you're making your design plan, you want to keep in mind different textures of plants and the colors that when they bloom, and also their heights. Heights is really important. So at your back of your garden here, you'll have the tallest plants like the chokeberry that grows really tall and really bushy. And along the edges, you'll have something like hairy beard tongue, where it grows kind of middle range and doesn't really block the back plants. And then at the front, you'll have the smallest plants. So out here, I have my tiny little prairie smoke, which only grow about a foot, not even. And the reason for that, you don't want to block the view of your back plants. So you want to admire all of your pollinator feeding plants, especially the ones in the back. So you want to be conscious of the height when you're making your design. And you also want to have some focal points. So in the middle of my garden, I'm going to have wild bergamot and also some blazing star to make a statement in the middle. And then have the rest of my plants flowing around it to make it look even more beautiful. So making your garden shine, not just for the pollinators, but also for your eyes, is also important. So in my garden, I have 12 species of plant going in, and I'm going to go through my top 3 list. This first one here is wild bergamot. Now, wild bergamot has some beautiful lavender flowers throughout the summer, and even those flowers would make it one of my favorites, but the added value of this plant is that it's a favorite of butterflies. So butterflies love to drink its sweet nectar and enjoy its beautiful smell, and we also like to enjoy its beautiful smell. It actually is in the mint family, so it smells like citrus and mint at the same time, kind of a mix of both, so I can come into my backyard and get some aromatherapy whenever I want it. So where there's smoke, there's usually fire. But when there's prairie smoke, there are queen bees. So this early flowering perennial has these really cool knob-like blooms. You can see them there. They're nice and pink and nodding. And queen bees, when they come out of hibernation, they're really hungry. And this early bloomer provides their buffet as soon as they come out of hibernation, and they can enjoy their spring and lay their new babies. In my top 3 list, I also have the foxglove beard tongue. And foxglove beard tongue is really popular in gardens, and it's a favorite food of the Baltimore checker spot larvae, so the caterpillars of those butterflies. And when this flower actually flowers, it becomes really, really tall, and it makes a really nice house arrangement. So you can cut it and put it into a vase at home and enjoy it for longer than just in your garden. And when making your design plan and picking your plants, you want to make sure that your plants flower at different times of the year. So you don't want all the same plants to flower at the same time of year. Otherwise, it'll just be kind of a flowering and then it's over in the spring or in the summer. So you want pollinators to come throughout the summer and spring and even the fall to feed on your garden. So you want it to be a buffet all year long with different menu items for those pollinators, and different times of the year they come through to actually find their flowers. So bergamot flowers mostly throughout the whole year, a lot in the summer. And I said before that prairie smoke flowers very early in the spring. That'll help the early pollinators, and also the beard tongue in the late spring and early summer. So you want to find some plants that will flower throughout the year to make sure that your garden is a corridor for those animals and those wildlife throughout the entire year. So now I have all my plants placed in my garden. They're all still in their pots, as you can see here. I put them in there to just see and visualize what my garden would look like with the plants in those spots. So I'd recommend doing the same, is leaving them in the pots, putting it in there in the spots that you designed them for, and seeing what it looks like. My final garden doesn't look exactly the same as my design plan, but that's okay. Things change, you might change your mind, but the spacing of the plants might look different. So it's up to you how you want to design your plants, but your garden, but as long as you have a visualization of what it looks like before you put them in the ground, that's the way to go. Is I'm going to be starting planting my plants from left to right. So I do one side of my garden to the other side, just so that I don't step on plants and I make sure I don't miss any along the way. So I don't want my little babies to get trampled. So the first thing you want to do is dig your hole the size of the existing pot. So as tall, as deep and wide as your pot is. And I dig my hole. Getting rid of all the extra grass roots and that clay soil. You want to save this dirt here, because that's what you'll be filling your hole in with after you put your plant in. And you can always test the depth of your hole and size by sticking your plant in there still in the pot. So mine might be a little bit too deep. So I'm going to fill in some dirt and level it out. That's about right. You want the hole to be at the top of your pot here along the dirt line. So now, to get your plant out, you squeeze these pods really hard. They're native plants, so it should be okay, but it's really hard to hurt them. And as you squeeze it, you'll see it popping out, and gently slide it out. And you can see on some of my plants here, this one is root bound, which means that it's growing to the end of its pot and looking for soil to grow further in. And so what I want to do, I'm going to break off a little bit of the bottom here of those roots. They're kind of compact, and give it a bit of breathing room before I put it in the hole. You can see them there rip a little bit, called tickling the roots. Just a little bit. You're not going to hurt the plant. And then you place it in the hole, and you want to make sure your plant is sitting straight up so it grows tall and strong. So once it's sitting straight, you gently fill in the dirt around it. So now that I have my harebell in the ground here, you can see where the dirt line is. I just filled it into the top of the pod here. You can see the dirt from the pod and a little bit of fertilizer from the pod. You don't want to make a mound up to here. You don't want to cover the roots too much. So just the base of the dirt, so it has lots of room to breathe. All those roots are covered. We're rooting for you, man. Grow, baby, grow. So my plant is now officially in the ground. It's in the ground, nice and secure. You can push on it. You can do the tug test. So you lightly pull it, and if it comes out of the ground, it's not in the ground properly, so you have to redo it. But if it's like this, where it's not moving anywhere, that's the tug test, and it looks to be secure and happy in its new home. And there it is. So that's number one. I'm going to plant the rest of them, and I'll show you my finished product. So my garden is officially planted. All my little babies are now in the ground in their respective spots. I have the tall plants at the back and the really small ones at the front. You can see they kind of look sad right now. They're wilted and not looking very happy, but over time they'll perk back up. And the most important thing is to water your new garden. So I'm going to use my rain barrel to fill up my watering can and water all of these beautiful plants and let them grow. So when I'm watering my new plants, you don't want to dump the water right on top of them. You want to water around them, so not to disturb the roots and the soil around it. And it encourages the roots to spread out. So you don't want to plop it right on top. You don't want to hurt them. They're pretty sore right now for being transplanted, so I'm just being gentle and giving them a good drink. Welcome back on the second day of our planting. So we have our garden completely done now. We actually put some mulch down today and watered it a little bit more. The plants look way better today. Overnight they got perking up and their leaves are standing up straight and all their stems are standing up straight. Even the prairie smoke flowers are blooming even more. If you can find some hardwood mulch, I would prefer putting that into your garden, not just because of its nutrients, but also because it avoids washing away or blowing away in the wind. It's a lot heavier than regular mulch, so it'll stay put in your garden. So when putting your mulch in your garden around your plants, you want to be sure not to put it too close to your plant. You can see mine is just around the base of the plant. You don't want to damage the stem with these sharp edges of the mulch, so make a little kind of a well and put the mulch right around your plants and give it a nice, warm, secure home. Our garden is now completely done, our new pollinator paradise, which was once a patch of grass and now is full of native species with flowering buds and native foliage for our birds and bees and butterfly friends in a biodiversity hotspot that is Hamilton and Burlington. So if you are encouraged to plant your own garden, please send us pictures. We'd be happy to see or help you out with your guys' projects, and happy gardening.